On Motor Driven this week, we take you behind the scenes at this year's Kyalami 9 Hour and we bring you the highlights from the race, another weather-affected championship decider. And we start our 3-car Aston Martin garage tour with the Vantage. Well, this week, as you can see, we're coming to you from behind the scenes. The Kyalami 9 Hour Motor Driven is certainly taking you places. It is fantastic to be racing again. Things might have changed. Yeah, I've got to wear one of these. I've got to wear a mask. But we are on track and we are racing. And to be able to go behind the scenes with the drivers and be given insights is something that I think you guys are going to enjoy.
And I'm excited to be here at Kyalami. I'm very, very happy and thank you very much for hosting us here at home, at Kyalami.
So the cars were bought obviously in containers, and yesterday we had immigration here. We need to be present when we open them.
Okay.
And then they spend the week fine-tuning and preparing for the big race. It's
how many cars, how many drivers?
12 international teams have made it, which is terrific.
So basically this car is coming from Intercontinental GT America, so that's why it's still in pieces.
They're putting it together?
Exactly, they're putting it together now, and it should be ready for Wednesday already. We've got a nice South African theme on our car.
Oh, okay.
Not as nice as Audi.
It's big, eh?
But it's really cool. This door weighs 30 kilograms, but feel this, just hold it. It's
light,
everything. It's incredibly light.
So you can fly out.
So now we save for you the best for last. The Audi, so we have a special design with a tribal design, leopard skin on the side. So the team from Audi did a great job, I think, to do something special for South African race.
The size of a car matter. That Bentley looks bigger.
Yeah, Bentley's just a boat. That's why the Audi's normally up front. No. Obviously, smaller and lighter is better. And normally speaking, in a race car.
The executive mayor also found himself in the hot seat, strapped in for a lap of the Kyalami circuit.
You! I'm too fat for this. That was my first time in the track, yeah.
And your last time?
No, it's not the last time.
Oh, now it's the beginning of your racing career.
Absolutely. At 52, I'll be starting.
The Kyalami circuit, with its elevation changes, mix of high and low speed corners, make it a true challenge for drivers. We went for a lap with someone who knows around rather well.
Hello and welcome to the Kyalami Grand Prix circuit. It's Jordan Pep here. Let's jump on board my Bentley Continental GT3 and let me take you for a lap around my home circuit. So as you're approaching turn 1 here, you're really looking for the 100-meter board braking just before, hard down the gears, down to second gear, late apex and getting early on power. It's really crucial to use all the exit through here, set this right hand up, get the car all the way back to the right hand side, straight braking, get the car in and again early on the power on the way to sunset. This corner is really tricky in the race, especially when the sun is setting, because that's where it got its nickname, because the sun's straight into your eyes. You brake here down to 4th, tip it in really fast, early on power, picking up the curb. On the exit, don't go too wide to avoid that bump. Braking here into clubhouse, hard on the brakes, down to 2nd gear. You can take 1 or 2 lines missing the bumper, make sure you use all the exit room, up to 3rd. And now the S's, I really enjoy this part. You really got to get it in, down on the left-hand curb, through the dip, little lift to get the car turned, back on the power, up all the way to the top of the hill. This is really tricky, aiming for that tall tree in the background there, hard on the brakes, back down to 2nd, carrying a lot of minimum and entry speed, getting the car turned in early on power, using all the exit coming down the mine shaft. It's a really, really steep downhill, so as you're approaching here, you really want to focus that you get the turning point really crucial, otherwise you can understeer wide. Get the car back to the left as you come into the crocodiles, and it's a weird braking because the corner's always going to the right, so you really got to focus that you get the car turned in, hard on the power, not use too much exit. Coming over this crest, through the kink, one of the hardest corners on track, make sure you get the apex, use all the room on exit, pull the car back to the right, hard on the brakes again, down to 2nd gear, pick up the curb, open the steering, early on throttle, make sure you get a good exit over the finish line, and that's a lap of the Kyalami Grand Prix circuit with me, Jordan Pepper. Hope you enjoyed it.
Although circumstances meant this year's lineup was reduced with only one Pro-Am and one Silver Class entry, the rest of the grid would feature the world's best GT3 teams and drivers battling it out in this championship decider.
Hello, my name is Markus Winkelhock, racing for the Motorsport Team WRT this weekend, together with Dries Vanthoor and Kelvin van der Linde on the 31 car. I love the design. I have to say, I see the car now the first time in real, and for me it looks much nicer even than it was in the picture. So I'm really happy to go with this livery this weekend.
Last year was for most of us the first time here in Kyalami, and we all experienced the South African weather quite well. For sure this year we are more sorted. I guess everybody will look more into the skies, and if it comes to a rain or thunderstorm, I think we all know that we have to be a little bit more clever.
I'm from Amsterdam originally. I had a straight flight into this fantastic piece of the earth. I really like coming here. Last year I was here on a holiday, but in Cape Town area.
My name is Andre Besaidnet. I'm racing for ACK Racing Team Perfect Circle and run by Lechner Racing this year. I'm 59 years old. Certainly the butterflies are there. I'm an amateur. I'm following the advice of the engineers and the guidance of my co-drivers, and I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, the car is just a beautiful piece of machinery. I spoke to my friend Kelvin van der Linde, and Kelvin said, "You're gonna enjoy this. You won't be able to get out of it and probably take it home."
Also first time for me to drive with the factory Audi car, so a bit of pressure, but I believe we can do a good job. I will give my best from a personal point of view, and hopefully will be enough to put Frederick in a good position for the championship.
The endurance races are the true spirit of motorsport, of the team spirit, because the races are long, are intense, are very demanding for the driver and for the team. Therefore, this team spirit gets even more alive. And we travel the world, we do some very extreme races, and we need them. We need them because we have many stops. It's not like a sprint race where sometimes I have only one stop. Here we have many stops, big changes. Sometimes the race we have to do a brake change and so on. So we need to have a very compact and strong team, because they can definitely win the race for us.
Born in M-Town, raised in Johannesburg. I thought there would be something cool to add to the little thing, you know.
Having won his first DTM race in 2020, would it be a big transition into a GT3 car?
Yeah, you've basically got a lot less downforce, you've got less power as well, and you've got ABS and traction control, which makes things essentially a bit easier. But at the same time, to perfect both of those things is very difficult in itself. So it takes a bit of adjustment as a driver, but yeah, I drive so many different race cars in a year that I'm able to do this adaptation quite quickly now. Just hopefully it doesn't rain again. I have to stress this every time, because I think we have most of our chances in the dry, and if it's dry, I think we have a really, really good chance.
Our season of Intercontinental GT Challenge started in February in Bathurst, and we did the first race, and after that, with the world going a little bit crazy, we didn't know what to expect, whether to be back, and then we did Spa, and you know, from Lawrence and myself, we managed to win the race, which was incredible, get one of the big ones, and then we were never sure if Kyalami would happen, and then they announced that it's definitely going to happen, and here we are in December, beautiful sunshine, you know, going for a big race.
I'm 26 years old from France and racing for the second year here in a row in Kyalami. Last year was a bit of a crazy race for us. Part of the winning team, as you mentioned, was really great achievement for Porsche and for myself. So yeah, we definitely come back to finish on a high this season. We are in the shot for the driver title and again for the manufacturer championship. So yeah, target is definitely to secure both this weekend.
So the Porsche's starting to look a little bit more racy and brave on the outside.
Very brave indeed.
The Kyalami 9-hour would signal the end of an era for the crew-based Bentley factory team. We caught up with them away from the race day. Now remember I said to you how competitive these guys are, and they're coming up with challenges. They've come up with another one. Explain how this works. Is it putting a speed factor to golf? Why am I not surprised that racing drivers want to go as quickly around the golf course as possible? What are we doing?
Firstly, before we start here, we need 4 members. So as long as you're happy to join our team.
Yeah, we're never going to win or finish it, and we'll break the Guinness records. They don't even phone the buggers. What do we do?
Par 4, play it in the quickest possible time. So we're going to leave Jewel to hit off the tee. I'm going to hit the approach shot in, and then it's up to you and Max to finish, basically.
Straight down the middle.
Get close! Get close! There it comes, incoming. This is good. On the fairway. Where? Yeah. On the fairway. Oh. Go. Play the putter. Play the putter.
No, well.
Hey?
No.
Go. Go. That's a great shot. That's a great shot.
Let's go, let's go, let's go.
Let me not cock this up.
Yay!
How good was your shot?
That one was good.
Great second shot. And the drive, eh? Hey? That was flippin' unbelievable. But you've got to see his shot. You've got to see his shot.
No, is he good?
Huh? He putted with a pitching wedge from there and put it right next to the pin. No. I promise you. Okay, well done, boys.
That was good. That was lekker.
That was lekker. And you enjoying the race footage so far? Looks pretty good, doesn't it? Whether you are sitting on your couch watching this on television, or maybe you're watching on one of your devices, wherever you are in the world, we get the picture to you. How does that happen? Well, that is the life of an outside broadcast. I've been doing TV for 22 years, and I can tell you I've got no clue what actually goes on inside these vans. So I thought I'd give you guys a sneak peek behind the scenes. We can go and have a look at it. It's a little bit challenging this year because of COVID. We've had to do an outside broadcast a little bit differently. We are streaming stuff to all of our international fans, but we're also going live to Supersport, which is done traditionally through satellite. The trick is that our commentators are not here. So we've got to get a picture of them to commentate before we send it out to you. It is very complicated, but we've got a bunch of guys that do this for a living. Let's go and meet them.
We've got producers sitting in the UK, we've got graphics sitting in the UK, and then we're uplinking obviously to Supersport. So we've got multiple formats. We've got our commentators actually aren't here. They're not here.
Now normally in an outside broadcast everyone would be seated in the van, but now they're not because of COVID. Guys are working remotely.
I mean, at the moment we would have 20 people inside, but at the moment I think there's five, well actually there's only just a director and a technical producer here.
It's okay, so let's put it in perspective. We've got 12 plus cameras, we've got 2 live link cameras in the main pits. All of that stuff gets cabled, fibered into the OB van. Then we send that signal where?
So that signal will come into the desk. There's a director, he'll cut it, and then they'll go out streaming and on the satellite.
Okay, but because the commentators and the graphics are not here, that little picture you sending is actually that picture up top there.
There's multiple pictures, a program picture. It'll come into the truck, we mix it. The audio will come in from the internet via IP. We've got 2 commentator channels. The effects we get off the cameras on the track and a lot of other feeds. And then the audio will be mixed together, the video will be mixed on the video desk, and that all comes together to transmit out.
Lots of backwards and forwards from the track to England, back to the track before it goes out to the rest of the world.
So there's a lot of up and down and backwards and forwards.
Troy, I'm glad you're doing this job because I promise you I wouldn't know what to plug in where. Technical but awesome. Hope that gives you some insight. Let's go check out the van. You can multitask?
I can just about, yeah, give it a go. I'm trying to call the cameras as well, so I'll do my best.
Nice to have space in an OB van. Everyone's over in the UK.
Well, we're basically observing protocols as much as we can. And so we've got a commentary team of 2 guys back in the UK, David Addison and John Watson, who raced here back in the 80s. So
we actually interviewed him last year. What a legend!
Yeah, he is absolutely. So we use him all the time for our GT World Challenge races as well. So he's well and truly part of the team. Quite a convoluted thing, but it's working. And so far we've got pictures up, and everything's going well.
I don't know how you just did what you did. So he was actually directing all the cameras on track. There are 12 of them plus 2 live cameras from the pit lane, and he's directing that and talking to us. The guy's a genius. Well done.
Probably an hour spin, not like double spin.
Motor racing is a dangerous sport, and obviously ensuring the driver's safety and that of the spectators is paramount to the successful running of any event. Last year at the Kyalami 9 Hour, so much of the race was under safety car conditions because of the apocalyptic rain. I thought it'd be interesting to get to meet the safety car drivers, the pace car drivers, and understand a little bit about how that all works. Now, the nice thing about a safety car driver or a pace car driver is they need to know what they're doing. They need to be experienced racing car drivers. Why are you laughing, Franco Di Matteo? You are probably the most experienced guy for the role, but your job is not safety car, you are pace car. So explain what that is.
Okay, Marius, the pace car is actually the guy that actually starts the race. So we park right in front when the grid is formed at the back of us. And then when the time has come that we have to start the race, we will go out and do about 3/4 of the circuit. We go up to West Bank, what we used to call the old West Bank, turn 9. Flat out, basically, and then we'll slow it down right down to 50 k's an hour. So it gives the whole group of guys, or the rest of the cars, in other words, to catch up. So in other words, to warm up their tires, make sure that everything is working. Okay, once they've caught us, we control the race right up to the pit entrance. Then we'll pull into the pits, and then the race will start. And the front guy in the race will actually control the race over the start and finish.
A marshal is a thankless job, but motor racing will never happen without them, and Kyalami marshals have been around for a very long time. Dave, how many of your guys are here making sure that the drivers are safe on track?
It's a thankless job, but it's a passion that we have. For an international event like this, I've got 165 marshals here this weekend.
Serious? 165?
165 marshals, all from the Gauteng region. I've got Swartkops marshals, Red Star marshals, Kyalami marshals. Yeah, so we're pretty covered.
It's a long time for the guys standing on the side. You can't doze off. You've got to be super alert because they're often the first point of call. What happens if there's an incident? Do they radio it in, or how does it work?
On an international event, it gets radioed in straight away, and then we work under instructions from the race director. He will then institute either a full course yellow or a yellow, and once it's stabilized, then the marshals will respond. And then from that point, it's either just marshals, or it's medical and marshals, or medical and fire and marshals, or recovery.
Gina, you've got a pretty high-pressured role this weekend as a safety car driver, one of 3. But as a mom, you know all about safety, so maybe you're the perfect person for the job.
Yeah, actually, as a safety car driver, you shouldn't want to go out because that means there's trouble on track. So for us, we hope that we get to sit around all day. But actually the role is just to make sure that if there is an incident on track, that we keep the cars a bit slower, back everybody up, and then we make sure that they're keeping heat in their tires and in their brakes.
Now that is what's really difficult because we've got a smaller field this year, so probably less chance of safety car situations, but it's weather, and that's what brought the safety car out for a long spell last year. Really, really difficult then from a driving perspective in those treacherous conditions to ensure that you stay safe, but also quick enough to keep the heat in the tires, like you said.
Yeah, there was no visibility last year in the rain. But what helped was the more that we're out on track in the rain, the more water gets dispersed off of the line. So the longer that we're out there, the better it is. There is rain forecast, so let's see how it goes. We hope that everyone can keep it on track, but if not, that's why we're there.
So last year at the Kyalami 9 hour, when it came into the Pirelli garage, it was packed wall to wall and to the ceiling with tires. That's because we had 40 competitors. Obviously this year we're down to just 12 runners, so a lot less rubber. But Mattia, you've got new rubber this year, rubber that is ensuring that there is massive performance across changing conditions. Talk to us about the new tire.
Yeah, our plan during the past years was to develop a new product for 2020, and we introduced it in the European and American series. And obviously, Kyalami is one of the Intercontinental GT Challenge races, and has to have the same product. So basically what we did is an improvement in the construction and the profile design of the rear and the front construction to have a product that is more suitable for the type of the new generation of GT3 cars and more adaptable to the wider range of the conditions that we can face during the season. Because we are using the same in all the rounds, and you can think about Bathurst that is very hot, quite similar to here. But for example, Spa this year, that during the night was winter time. Yeah, so at the end, we need to find a product that can adapt or can always guarantee a grip level to the drivers in all the conditions. And so we continue that kind of improvement and that kind of design.
Well, I tell you, you've got some new data to work with, because with everything being so late with COVID, like you say, so many of the races were run in conditions in Europe that are a lot colder than normal. Chatting to the drivers over the weekend, they say Kyalami as a circuit, very dusty, but low degradation on the tires. Do you see that as well? They're not going through many tires?
Yeah, Kyalami is quite a particular and singular circuit. We don't have many data because we come only once a year here, but we can see that degradation is quite low. The grip level is changing a lot with the temperature and during the day, because for example, yesterday during the last practice, the grip level was very low and then improved during the day until the qualifying session where the grip level was quite good. It's always, for an endurance race, it's always a matter to find the right balance between performance and consistency. And I think that the teams, they work a lot in consistency. And if the race will remain green, we will see some good fight at the end.
I know we're standing with a bunch of slick tires behind us, but you were very busy with your wet tires last year, and I think that might be the case again if the weather forecast is correct.
Yeah, weather forecast is always changing as well. But we learned last year that when it rains in Kyalami, it rains a lot. And let's say all the season has been toward the wet conditions, because we have moved all the races in September, October and November. And I can say that 90% of the races had at least one race or one practice that was wet. So the experience of the team now on the wet product is very high. And let's see if the rain is coming, because it's 3 days that they're saying that it's coming and it's not.
Motorsport is a really technical game. You've got a bank full of technicians, you've got drivers trying to input data. It's a busy place. What goes on, we don't know anything about. So we've brought in a professional. Renga van der Zande is going to try and talk through what goes on here. Renga, first session out, you've got a base from last year.
Yeah.
What happens here? What are we looking at with all the technicians? Because it's very busy.
So basically we have a lot of people working on this team. There's a mechanic on that side, we're working on the car flat out. But then we have a guy for the electronics, only working on the electronics. Guy from the engine and the data, this is him. Then Giancarlo is our main engineer, so he runs the car basically for setup, for strategy and all that. We have a guy for the weather here, because last year there was a big thunderstorm and we learned from it. And the same way in Spa, there's a lot, to lose or gain if you know what the weather is going to do. You never know exactly, but hopefully he can help. Then we have Dario, who's on the pit wall now because we're in the session. And Dario basically is doing the radio calls, so everything that speaks to the driver is Dario. And we have a whole list that we work through. Basically what I like, what my other teammates like to hear when we are in the car. And he's very good on the radio to update us on what we do. So basically we have all kinds of monitors and live data from the car coming to our laptop. So we can see if the engine is running fine, if the temperatures are good. all kinds of information about tire pressures, about what we need to know about the car not shutting off when it gets too hot, or all kinds of parameters that we need to know. So yeah, that's about it from the engineering side, and that's how we go racing.
But Renga, you also, obviously now Bertrand has just got out the car first session, so he'll give feedback. Then would you sit together once you've all had a session and talk through what worked for you, what worked for him, and find a best solution?
Yeah, during the session you also might want to change your plan again, because we made a plan already weeks before, and this is like, okay, Baguette, my teammate, has been here before, he knows the car, but he hasn't been in the car for a long time. So get him out there with the new tires, get a feel for what the track is like, how the car is, and get him up to speed with the car again. Then we found out that the track this morning was very dirty, so we said let's rotate the drivers so we all get a feel for the car, because in a dirty track you cannot set up the car. So you change your plan basically every time. You make a plan, you change it during the session and start working on it again. So
and in the race, I mean, it'll be critical, the input that you're giving back to the pit wall in terms of what are you feeling from a handling perspective with tire pressures, because you can make those changes as the track temperature drops.
Yeah, you're really always in touch with your team. So as a driver, you're giving feedback how the car handles, about the balance of the car, also how the tire degradation is going over a stint. Some tracks are very abrasive, so you can only do 60 minutes on a set of tires, you need to change the set of tires. And here, it seems to be okay with the degradation, so you can maybe do 1.5 stints on the tire, which the feedback from the driver is very important to the team if you're actually going to do that or not. So there's a lot to it. You know, also if you see a big cloud coming on the back of the track, you want to tell the team and you make decisions together.
It's unbelievable because people don't get this insight or this input. They just see what's happening on screen and you in the car, but it is so much information for you as a driver to have to compute. You're trying to keep the car on the black stuff and you've got to remember all this other important information.
Sometimes 2 or 3 times a lap you're talking to your engineer about brake bias. You know, they can see the temperatures of the brakes, so I always ask them like, hey, is it okay to maybe get a bit more front bite or change the ABS or the traction control? And
so you can adjust all of that on the fly. I know about the brake bias, but I didn't realize you can change how much traction you're getting.
Oh yeah, we have 2 TC buttons. We have a traction control, brake bias, ABS settings. So if it's raining, you want to have more ABS than when it's dry. With the old tires, you want to have more ABS than when it's older tires or new tires. So it's it's a lot to it actually.
It's unbelievable, and thank you for this insight, because you know we don't get to go behind the scenes. It's amazing.
Yeah, if you look here, we have a physio actually working on it on the whole team, not only the drivers. Is Emiliano. He's doing I think 35 races a year with all kinds of classes with us in the ICGT, but also in LMP2, in other races. He's working with Antonio Felix da Costa, one of those Formula E drivers.
That is massive. I mean, the amount of strain physically your body's being put under in a 9-hour race, 24-hour race, important to have a de-stress.
Oh yeah, and he knows what we should eat and all that. So you can, I can learn a lot from a guy like this, to how to stay fit and how to work on your sleep and all that. So it's really good.
I need a few secrets.
I might tell them after this interview.
Please share it. One last thing before I forget. Everyone talks about balance of performance. How do the teams? How does that get decided by SRO? Do you know in simple terms?
Yeah, but basically the balance of performance is about making all cars equally fast, so we can really have a good fight on track, which is a fantastic way to do it. It's not easy though. So sometimes, you know, our car is very good on top speed, but we're very slow out of the corners. So basically, at the end of the straight, we're same speed. In the beginning, they pull away. So you're always fighting with, you know, let's say a Porsche is really good out of the corner, but very slow on the end of the straight. So between us, if we race each other, it's always an interesting one. But
it becomes so difficult because the traditional overtaking position would be into turn 1, but if you're not getting good drive out of the last corner, it makes it really difficult.
Yeah, exactly that. So sometimes they give us more power or less power or more weight or less weight, and that's what they do with all the cars. And SRO has always done a very good job. Also because they have so many cars in the field, they can really see what each car is good at and bad at. So that's basically how the BOP works.
But isn't that more difficult for you guys only having one car here? Because that becomes quite difficult to get a base throughout. If there were 3 or 4 Hondas running, they could get an even I don't know, does that make sense?
Yeah, no, for sure. For SRO, it's much easier if there's many cars from one brand. There's always someone who is doing a good sector here or a sector there. With us, we have only one car, so we could play the game as in being very slow in practice, show no pace and all that, but we don't do that. It's not the style of the team. It's also not, we're a Japanese brand. It's not the style of the Japanese how they work, so I think we have a very equal balanced performance going into this weekend, so hopefully we have a bit of a weight disadvantage, I think, so hopefully that doesn't hurt us too much, but I really think SRO knows what they're doing, so hopefully we're okay.
But thank you for clearing that up. I love the fact that you guys go out not to play games, not to sandbag, but to race and race hard and fair.
And also for the driver like me, when I go out, I want to just be fast. I want to work on the setup. I don't want to think about political games, so I'm very happy with that.
Kelvin, this is where the fun and games are over. First session of the race weekend, you just got out the car. How's it going?
Yeah, first impressions was good. It's a bit empty outside there. I just see a lot of green grass, which is, I mean, it's cool to be out there. The track's obviously still very dusty, so, you know, we're building up to it, running our program, trying to get all the, let's say, admin work done while the track is still green, and once it rubbers up later this afternoon, we'll have a go and do some qualifying simulations.
So now you're running car, full tanks, every driver gets a go, just to kind of get a feel for green conditions.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the European guys, they don't really know the track. So obviously I grew up here, I've done some promo days here, so I know where it goes left and where it goes right. But my teammates need some laps to get used to. There's 2 or 3 drivers that weren't here last year, so they need some time in the car. And from that perspective, that's what we're doing now and using that time.
So how much change? I mean, we've got like clever guys here, technicians, banks of data, everything linked to the car. How much of that input are you involved in now? You get out of the car, you can actually make changes, check with your engineer, maybe you want to change tire pressures. Is that the normal process on a race weekend now?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the engineers, they see more than the driver sees in the car. They have live data, so they can analyze everything. They actually give us all the feedback in the car. For example, here now on a green track, we're working on how the brakes are working. We have ABS, so we want to try to fine-tune that, what settings, software running. That's mainly what we're doing at the moment. And we have, software engineers, at least 5 software engineers just going through data, studying while I'm in the car. And by the time I get out, they're ready to download and go through it with me. So.
And weather conditions, I mean, the guys now know to expect rain. So, I mean, you can't really simulate that, but obviously how you set up the car is going to be very different. I mean, all that you can change once you go into race mode is literally brake bias, I guess, ABS, tire pressures. That is it.
Yeah, we're very limited with the tools we have, but nowadays I think especially how this race is going to pan out, you can't really plan for the rain because I expect very few safety cars. There will be a sprint race. Yeah. So for the first 5 hours, you need to be quick. You cannot be hanging around waiting for the rain
You're
to happen.
You're never going to catch up.
Exactly. So we need to be fast in the dry as well, so that makes it tricky, and I think that'll be the strategy. Have a fast race car for qualifying, and in the dry and in the wet, we freestyle.
Kelvin, I love it, freestyle. Hang on for dear life. Kelvin, the balance of performance is an interesting thing because I love what SRO is trying to do because I think it gives us great racing, lots of manufacturers, but it's a really tricky science to get right. Is there a chance that they look at these sessions now and they can make changes before qualifying?
Yeah, I mean, they have a lot of data. You must remember the SRO has series running in America, in Europe, everywhere. So they have data from all over the world, all kinds of altitudes, different racetracks, different layouts. So it's pretty much dialed in already. I doubt that there'll be any big changes this weekend, especially from the data they have from last year. Last year was a bit more difficult because it was our first time here. Yeah. They've made adaptations based on the results from last year, and I think it should be fine.
So Aston Martin may not be racing at this year's Kyalami 9-hour, but our featured car this week on Motor Driven has ensured the brand much success on the racetrack. It's been a busy year in the press for Aston Martin, dominated of course by the Lance Stroll buyout, the announcement of the team returning as a works team to Formula One next year, and most recently the signing of 4-time world champion Sebastian Vettel. But this year also marked a massive departure from the Grand Tourer norm for this 107-year-old company, with the production of this, their very first ever SUV, the DBX. But I'm not here to drive the future or talk business. I'm here to reconnect with the heritage, to drive the modern day versions of those iconic cars that are Aston Martin, the DB. The Vantage. And the DBS. Now, in the old days, the Vantage name was associated with high-performance variants of existing Aston Martins, but in 1972 it was its own model. A straight-six version of the DBS, which had been upgraded to a V8. Only 71 were made, and it was the last straight-six Aston until the DB7 in 1993. And of course, who can forget the muscle car that was the V8 Vantage in the late 70s and through into the 80s. Even James Bond had to drive one. The modern Vantage is positioned differently. It's lean, agile, more focused. It's less traditional GT and rather targeting a new buyer, someone who would naturally gravitate to, say, a 911. But to be honest, they didn't have a chance, considering that the previous generation was around for 12 years. But that all changed when this rolled off the production line at Gaydon in 2018. Using the same Mercedes-sourced powertrain and infotainment tech that you get in the DB11 V8, and crucially also running on that same brilliant chassis. What makes the Vantage so special is that it is more compact and weighs 230 kilograms less. Now I really can't wait to drive it. I'd like to start by saying that this is not the ideal environment to be enjoying my first Vantage drive, puttering along in traffic, going from traffic light to traffic light. But I suppose it does give me a unique opportunity to comment on just how user-friendly is the new Vantage as a daily driver. Yeah, massive improvement. Obviously, they've got the different driver modes and settings on the steering, and it's pretty standard across the Aston Martin range and in most performance cars. I can change the suspension setup and the dampening to give me a more comfortable drive. And then obviously I've got my sport button, which changes my throttle response, my engine notes. But what I do absolutely love, listen to that. But what I do love is that the default setting in the Vantage is sport. Then you get Sport Plus, then you get Track. And that really tells you about the performance focus of this more agile Aston Martin in the family. It really is pretty special. But let's talk about the performance figures then. Obviously the Mercedes-sourced 4-litre twin-turbo V8 engine that's producing 375 kilowatts, 685 Newton meters. I mean, that is really impressive. And it's driven via an 8-speed rear-mounted ZF transmission, which is pretty standard across the Aston Martin family now. What I really do like about this gearbox, it was probably the biggest bugbear that I had with the previous generation, is that in your daily drive, it was a little bit clunky for me. This is super smooth and intuitive driving on the highway, but wow, the best part is if I need to deliver the track personality, it's going to do that, and it is super quick and brisk on the down and up change with the pedals. Really nice. What is interesting, if you look at those performance figures and compare it to the DB11 where this V8 engine is also found, because of the weight reduction, it's going to sprint to 100 in 3.6 seconds. That's 0.4 of a second quicker than that DB11, and the top speed, what, 315 kilometers an hour. Listen, we're not going to come close to that today, are we? Which is pretty sad. But just cruising around like this, you get a feeling for a car, and this Vantage is telling me, bud, get off the highway, let's go and find a nice twisty mountain pass so you can really explore the performance benefits that this new chassis brings. It's got torque vectoring, an electronic differential. They've pushed the engine as far back as possible, so you've got 50-50 weight distribution, those compact dimensions, and that weight loss. It just tells you this car is going to be unbelievable from a driving perspective. And having driven the bigger V12 versions and being blown away by just how good the chassis setup is, I can just imagine how dynamic this vehicle is going to be. So it's not hard for me to understand why this Vantage delivers such a powerful package in the GT3 racing scene. Now the interior is pretty different to what you're going to find in the rest of the Aston Martin lineup, because obviously it's missing the extra 2 seats. This isn't GT focused. But what for me is a personal thing, I just find it quite busy. There are lots of buttons, it feels quite clumsy and in a way perhaps intimidating. I far preferred the cleaner layout that I found in the DBS and the DB11. But having said that, the fit and finish and the quality of the materials, well, yeah, that's on a par. No disappointment there. My favorite thing, I absolutely love this squared up top and bottom steering wheel. It's like, you know, the new wheels you see with the Formula One drivers. Really, really cool. The Vantage is also all about shedding weight, so you don't have a glove box. And the dash is also pretty traditional. No fancy flip up tech that you find on the other models. They've also given the Vantage the AMR treatment. They've made just 200 of them, but this is the part I really like. They come with a dogleg 7-speed manual transmission with rev synchro match, and you can actually flat shift the thing, which is incredible. It's got a mechanical limited slip diff, carbon ceramic brakes, and they've managed to shed another 100 kilograms off that base weight. What is that I heard you say? Collectors? Exactly. But what is available in South Africa right now is the Vantage Coupe as well as the Roadster, and the prices displayed are the base prices.
It's so amazing being behind the scenes. We are 2 hours into the race. It is fast, frenetic. It is a 9-hour sprint race. How does it end? Who's going to be the champion? Let's have a look.
Let's look back at the highlights of the 2020 Kyalami 9-hour, which began with Bertrand Baguette in the Honda storming into the lead at the first corner, and Jordan Pepper in the Bentley running out wide round the outside. The battle raged on around the opening lap as Marcus Winkelhock and Alex Bunker tripped over one another. Audi heading off into the gravel. Both rejoined, but the Audi had a long stop for damage and lost 3 laps as a consequence. The race restarted, and for the first hour, indeed for most of the first 8 hours, it was all smiles at Honda Racing, rather less so at Porsche. Great battle going on as Earl Bamber muscled his way up past teammate Patrick Pilet, who was not amused, and that also put him on the back foot, allowing Patrick Niederhauser's Audi to make a move on the inside line. Fred Verviche trying to follow through as well. Great fight between Niederhauser and Pilet as they stormed downhill. Verviche made a move at the top of the hill at turn 10 at Louis Coppi, went through, but as he ran wide, back on the inside line came the Gulf Porsche. We lost Bentley number 7 because that was a car that had a major engine drama. It pitted, limped out, but didn't get very far. Flame, smoke, and out of the race, Maxime Soulet, Jules Gounod, and local driver Jordan Pepper. Their tenure as Bentley worked drivers at an end, so too the manufacturer dream. Next Porsche battle, Matt Campbell up with Laurens Vanthoor, the two leaning on each other as they battled, and then coming under attack from the Audi as well as the cars swept their way through the S's and charged uphill once again. Matt Campbell getting himself onto the tail of the Porsche as up front. When the rain came, it was a fight still between Honda, BMW and the opposition. And number 34 running in second place. Elsewhere, really opportunistic dive by Matt Campbell, putting up past not one but 2 cars as he worked his way through to the front. And it was looking good for the Porsche as far as the championship was concerned in the early part of the race. Rather less so, number 54, Laurens Vanthoor, had this big slide, lost further ground, lost another place as well. up and past him. Went number 12, Matt Campbell, was on target not only for another place, but also to set the new lap record, taking that away from former Porsche star Nick Tandy, who done it last year. Out on track, number 34 BMW, hanging on to position just after the pit stops. Marcus Winkelhock had yet another drama, this time putting him off the road, but he was able to dig himself out with relative loss of time being minimal this time around. So Winkelhock battled on. Intercontinental GT Challenge champion of seasons past. Is he going to play a part in the outcome this year? The answer was to be no, because it would already be decided on track as BMW, Audi and Porsche continued to squabble as the race approached halfway. A slide from number 32 Audi was enough to open the door and allow the Valkenhorst BMW to go charging by. Porsche off the road as through as well went Lawrence Van Thorp. Patrick Pilet then came under attack from Christopher Haase as the race wore on. Number 44 Audi looking ever more of a threat and sweeping past as the cars went through the S's. Downhill they plunged. As meantime, there was another bid being made lower down the order. Lawrence Van Thorp under attack as number 32 Audi dived through on the inside line. And with all the abuse over the curve, it wasn't long before 54 Porsche was starting to struggle with the front splitter. Damage on the front right corner. They battled on to the next round of stops, but it had to go to the garage. They lost 2 laps while the damage was repaired. David Pittard had a rather wild ride coming downhill. He was off the road and back on again, but fighting the BMW, he just about kept it away from anything solid, but it was a decent recovery as then off the road went Alex Buncombe. Now, this was where things started to really change, because not only was he off the road causing a full course yellow, but the heavens finally opened. He tried to get back to the pits on his slick tyres, but just aquaplaned the next couple of corners. And then as the light went, the lightning came, the rain got heavier and heavier and heavier. The race briefly restarted. Mathieu Drudy had a big spin, and the net result of that was that we had another full course yellow period for the final hour and a bit, in which the savvy teams quickly pitted to reset the stint time and get to the end. And one of those that did so was Mathieu Drudy. One of those that did so was the winning BMW. And ultimately, number 34 would put itself into the lead, a lead it was never to lose as we were under yellow flag conditions to the very end. A race win and a championship win for Augusto Farfus and Nick Katzberg, joined for the race by Sheldon van der Linde. The provisional result looks like this. Sheldon van der Linde wins on home soil with Augusto Farfus and Nick Katzberg, those last 2 drivers taking the Intercontinental GT Challenge powered by Pirelli for 2020. Charles Weir, Smerker Bortolotti, Fred Verviche take second ahead of Patrick Pilet, Mathieu Jaminet and Matt Campbell.
Wow, motor racing can be so cruel. To finish under safety car conditions, obviously not ideal, but safety first. Last year we had crazy rain, no different this year, but at least we did go racing. Obviously I'm gutted for the Bentley M Sport team. Jordan Pepper and Max Soleil and Jules Gougnon out with that fire. And then of course we got quite tight with the guys from Honda Racing. They were wonderful, giving us of their time. They did all the hard work, and the full course yellow under those raining conditions ended up costing them a win. But it does mean that we have a South African on the top step of the podium. Well done to Sheldon van der Linde, and in doing that, Valkenhorst have secured the championship title as well for Nicky Katzberg and Augusto Farfus. What an amazing Kyalami 9-hour. It is good that we got to race again. Can't wait for 2021. I hope you enjoyed our coverage on Motor Driven as well. You're probably wondering what's coming up next week. Can we beat this? I certainly hope so. We get excited about the reimagined Lexus IS due for arrival in South Africa early in 2021. The English countryside flashes by in the DB11, the second car in our Aston Martin series. And I told you he'd be back. What are your rights as a motorist? That's my discussion with Howard Dembowski.